guys, Colleen here again with Yarn Wars, and I just came back to run another segment here that gives you an idea of different things that you can do. Now this was our basic, just meshy cell phone case holder, one of our Crochet Quickies. And what if you were to add one little step to that and give yourself a little more texture? Got actually kind of it's the same type of stitch all the way up, but now we have what almost appears to be little shelves, layers to our cell phone bag, which can make it even more exciting. This is a fun sparkly yarn that I used. You can use any kind of yarn you want, really, but look at the difference. It's just fun. Now this is easy, simple, run this up, work it up fast. This is a true Crochet Quickie. This is just a little more detailed and a little more complicated, just a tad, but once you get started with it, it is so fast and so simple, you will have your cell phone case in no time at all. See, and it's kind of got like scales. It's neat, almost like a little, like a snake. So I'm going to show you how to do this, how to make these ledges. It is more complicated to see in writing, so you may actually need this video to help you just get started with the stitching that we're going to be doing. And this, it might not be a bad idea to use a stitch marker if you need one, but your eyeballs work just as well because there are some definite things to look for when you get to the end of each row. So let's get started. Okay, so for this more scaled looking Crochet Quickie cell phone bag, the way that we're going to get started is the same as we did with our last. We are going to start, we are going to chain 15 to start, and this is going to fit several sizes of cell phones. Comes out, mine, I measured my cell phone, it was about 3" by 6" tall, so you know, that's with a case on it and all of that. But we're going to chain 15. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think that one of the hardest things to explain is this very beginning part, to get started with your first round right off of your foundation chain. So as we did for our first bag in the video 1, if you watched that, we are working a double crochet in to start into the 3rd chain from the hook. Now if you don't want, the one thing that I do want to show you real quick, if you work right into the 3rd chain and you just work it down like the foundation chain, you end up at the bottom with kind of that straight edge across. Now I am going to work into the spine of this to show you the difference in the two, and we're going to work into the 3rd spine from the hook. So you come back to the back of here and you just count your bumps. We got that one bump that's right below that first chain, then the 2nd, then the 3rd. We're going to work right into that 3rd bump. We're going to work our first double crochet, and it's a little awkward to get into. Just remember, you only have to go down the foundation chain once. So you know, if it takes a little more time doing it, don't worry about that. We're going to chain 1 after that first double crochet, and we're going to skip our next bump, which is that one there, and then we're going to work into our next bump right there. Okay, so we're going to work another double crochet right into that next bump. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip our next bump, and we're going to work a double crochet into the next bump, or spine, whatever you want to call it. Chain 1. We're going to, chain 1 is kind of the common thing through this project. So we chain 1 and we'll skip that next bump, then work into this next bump right here. Okay. We're going to chain 1, skip our next bump, work into our next bump. maybe, if we can get our hook to go through just the bump. There we go. All right, and work our double crochet and a chain. And then we're going to do that all the way to the end. You will end at that very first chain if you have chain 15. You can work these. Remember, work it in odds because that is going to create, that's going to get you down to where you're going to end on that last chain. So if you need a bigger bag, you're going to move up 2. So we did 15 for this one. Say you need a bigger bag, I would go to 17 or 19. You probably won't need to go as high as 19 because remember, yarn stretches. Quite forgiving here. So if you need to get smaller, just go down. We're at 15. I would go down to 13 or 11. So we've created this train track. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go from beginning post to end post. These are our double crochets here. Now this is where it gets a little complicated. We are going to chain 3 at the end of this row. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to work around this first post or double crochet. We are working this train track backwards. So it's confusing to put on paper, but it's not really that confusing. It's not that complicated. So an extended double crochet, we're going to yarn over. We are going to go through that post right there. See how we did that? That very last double crochet. We're going to pull through. We are going to yarn over and pull through 1. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, we've just created our first extended double crochet around that first double crochet post. Chain 1. We are, like I said, working backwards. So this is a little bit awkward as well to start, but we are going to go into that next post, through, grab our yarn, pull through, and then work another extended double. And chain 1. And we're going to do that all the way down the line around the post. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and chain 1. Okay, I don't want to get my yarn all in a mess here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 more to work here. So we're going to come in, and like I said, it's a little awkward, but you're just working it backwards. And this is the only row that you're going to work backwards on. So don't think that this whole project is going to be just all twisty turn of your wrist and everything else. You're going to do it one time down the row, and then you will be speeding through this project. So we're coming to our next post right there. Now our last 2 posts are going to get a little confusing because they're right next to each other. We are going to work it the same as we have down this row, but you are going to work both of those posts. So we'll chain 1. Just know, remember you got 2 of them at this end, so we're going to go ahead and go through that first one, create our extended double crochet, chain 1, and then we're going to go through that very last one, okay, and work our extended double crochet. Okay, now the interesting thing about this project is now you've worked it. So if you were to stand it, and I did put this in a picture, kind of like that. If you stand it, you just worked across the top of those posts. So you do have that bottom section there. Now the only difference really is that you have a neater chain across the bottom, where here you have that very defined chain across the side because we worked right into each of the chain stitches. we didn't work into the spine like we did onto this one. So it kind of gives it more of a flat bottom on this one. But as you can also see, we've created a little bit of a cup in the making, in the start. If we were to slide all of these down to the bottom that we just made, to the bottom of those posts, you would see we've slid them all the way down. We've still worked the top of those, but we have a cup going now. Okay, so what we are going to do to begin, remember we worked down our train track here. Now when we get here, we're going to go ahead and turn our project so it's a little more normal now. And you see that last post was made, we made that extended double crochet. We were facing this way, but we made that extended double crochet into that post there. So our next stitch, we are not joining through any of this project until we get to our end. So just chain one, and that's the nice thing too. I like the fact that we don't join in this because we are just going to work a continuous. Now, if you need a stitch marker, and it's not a bad idea for the beginning of this project, just throw one in there, a stitch marker or a piece of yarn, and we are going to move right into our next level here. We've chained one. Like I said, we worked this last post here, or last space here. We're going to come over to the next space. Let me see where we've got this. That next space is going to be right up here. See, because this is our last stitch right here. And we're putting our stitch marker right before our next stitch. And this is our next space. So after we've chained one, we are going to work an extended double crochet right into that space. Okay, and a stitch marker that actually attaches to your yarn at this point might be a little easier to start, just because that could very easily fall right out of there. But this is, I'm going to actually tie it on here so that it doesn't fall out. I want to make it clear when we get to the end of this row what we're doing here. So we're going to keep that there by just tying it on there real quick. Okay, so we've worked an extended double crochet into this next stitch here, space, and all we're working are spaces right now. So we're going to chain one, and then we're going to go to our next space. Sorry about that. Go to our next space and work. After we yarn over, we're going to work our next extended. Okay. So now we are working our spaces. We always chain one, work into our next space and extend it. Now, if you'll remember from the last row, we just continue this up and up and up and up and up until we've completed our project. So this is going to be a little different, just throwing in one extra step to this pattern to make that more of a scaly texture to your project. So we are going in, after we chain one, we are going into each of the spaces around with an extended double crochet, each space, until we get around to our stitch marker. And sometimes you're going to have to pull this together to just get to mind yourself where you are. You can see how we're getting, we're raising up here, so we need to complete all the way around to the end to make this more even. And it's never going to be 100% even until we reach the end. So we just worked into this space. Now we're going to work into this space. Our next extended and chain one. Okay, so I'll stop talking for a minute and we'll get up to the end of this row so I can show you. If you need to pause while you do this, and once you get this extended double crochet down, you'll be doing this so fast. It's just easy. It's easier than a treble. One, and then through two, and then through two. It's just really easy. And then one. Okay, we're coming into our end zone of this round. got this kind of glittery deal here. Okay, so we have one more space, chain one, work right into that one last space, our extended double crochet, and we've reached the end of that first round. Okay, see, that's much more even there. So we are right before our stitch for our next round. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move our stitch again up. Now this time it's going to hold in a little better. We're going to just put that right there before. And we are just chaining one at the beginning of each round. Now, we are going to go into that very first. This is the difference in how we're creating our scales. We're going into this very first extended double crochet from the last round. We are going to make an extended double crochet front post around that. So when you front post, you're going right in and through that post. If we were doing a back post, we'd be coming around to the back and going through and working this on the back side. But we are going to work in and through that first stitch in extended double crochet. And then we'll chain one. Maybe. All right. So this is sometimes you're going to have to fold this up to make sure that you are staying where you're supposed to be. But we work that first front post right there. And then we are going to work the next, after we've chained one, work that next front post double crochet and chain one. And then we go into our next extended double crochet and make another extended double crochet around that front post. Okay, now we're going to chain one again, like I said, after each stitch made. And I hope this is not confusing at this point, because this is actually really simple what we're doing. We are just going to work each of our posts. We're going to work a front post extended double crochet all the way around to our next, or to our stitch marker. And after you have completed this round, I will meet you on the other side. Go ahead and pause your video while you work. Remember, we chain one and we work a front post into each of the extended double crochets from our previous round. And we go through one, yarn over, go through two, yarn over, go through two. Okay? Complete this round. As you will see, what we're doing here is we're creating that first layer or scale. So get to the end of this and meet me back here. I will see you at our stitch marker. Okay, so now we have gotten back to almost right at our stitch marker, and we've been working our front posts, extended double crochets in each of the extended double crochets from our previous round. We've chained one, and we're going to just work our last couple here. Into hopefully a focused screen here. And then we reach our end. We have that very last extended double crochet of this round right before our stitch marker. Go ahead and chain one and work into that last one. And then we have completed this round here. We're going to go ahead and move our stitch marker up if you are using a stitch marker. But you'll get to the point where you can see very clearly where your last stitch was made, or your first stitch was made when you get to the end of your project on your rows. So you'll see where that first front post was made, or the first space, extended double crochet space was made. Okay, so basically through this particular project, we are just alternating between those two rows. When we reach the end of our front post round, we replace our stitch marker where we need that, we are going to chain one, and we are going to work an extended double crochet into that next space. Just like we did from 2 rows back, we are now going to work that same row or round. So we'll chain one, and then we'll skip that post and work right into the next space, our extended double crochet. So now we're working spaces again. You're just going to work through each of these spaces around. Remember to close it up if you need to get back on track for some reason, because sometimes it's easy to, this thing will start folding on you and it gets a little confusing. But we are just working spaces now again, as we did 2 rows back. And through the entire round here. Remember, our last round, we worked front post extended double crochets around each of our previous extended double crochets. So we are setting our row up for our next layer of scales to be made. Let me see if I can whip through this real quick so I could get there to show you. And we just go straight into that next round. Again, just working spaces right now. Sometimes you do, like I said, sometimes you do have to fold it together to get yourself back on track, because these rows of scales are going to bring it down just a little bit, enough to where it can kind of pull you down a little bit and you get confused as to whether or not you're working into a space that you're supposed to be working into. Okay, and we are quickly, as you see, quickly coming into our stitch marker zone again. Sorry, I just bumped into the camera there. I apologize for this. I know this is not the most attractive deals here. I was weed eating my yard and the weed eater rubbed against my finger. I'm trying to keep a band-aid off of it so that it heals quicker. Okay, so unfortunately for you, I've got an eyesore on my finger. Right, and we are coming into our last two spaces, I believe. We've got our one, chain one, always, into our next space. I got this piece of yarn here, this little piece of sparkly tinsel. And now we have reached our stitch marker again. So we are going to go ahead and move that. We are working into that space. We did our last front post right there. You see that? So that's where we're going to start our next front post. We're going to move our stitch marker up. We're going to chain one. And now again, we are going to work that front post for our next round. So starting again, our new row of scales, we are going to front post around that first front post extended double crochet. And into each extended double crochet that we just made into each of our spaces, we are again going to work that round of front post extended double crochets, again creating our next row of scales. Okay. When I look into the camera, that's where it gets me all mixed up. Unfortunately, I keep getting out of the camera when I don't. So hopefully you can stay with me here. And remember, because I already see it happening with me, where I'm getting confused as to my posts, because things start curling in. Just move it back to where it's supposed to be so that you know clearly where you need to go into next, because you don't want to end up with a row that doesn't fit the row that's all closed up and crazy looking. Okay, so into our next, and continue this around till you get to the end. Of this next round, but this is what we are going to be doing throughout until we grow our pattern to the size we want, the height that we need it to be. So you are just going to alternate between these two rows, working first into your chain spaces and then working your front post extended double crochets. So it's all going between those two rows to complete your project, and it is as simple as that. Now go ahead and get to the end of this row. We'll go ahead and get you started on that pattern for your next round up, but then I'm going to let you go to complete the size that you need, and then we will finish off together. So we're just gonna continue here, and I will meet you. If you need to pause this, I will meet you at the end of this round, unless you've been working with me all along, in which case we will just jump right in to our next round together. Okay, now I have completed, with the exception of that very last right before, I've completed my last front post for this round. And you see it's a little uneven there. It's really nice though. It's real plush and thick and great. But we've created that second scale. If you were to pull all your stitches up, you would see that row that we just created. But we have that very defined scale there too. This would be really cool if you switched colors. You made it kind of rainbowy. I think that would be really neat. I should make one like that. But now we are just moving our stitch marker up, and like I said, we are just going straight into our next round, which is just working into our chain spaces. So you're going back and forth. You're working your front post round, and then you're working your chain round, where we just literally go right in to that chain space and work our extended double crochet. And then we always chain one, of course, into our next chain space. That entire round is going to be just into chain spaces. And then our next round is going to be working, well, we'll be back here, but we'll just be working around our posts from our previous round. So go ahead and complete this round, and then your next round, and your next, and your next, until you grow this, like I said, to the height you desire. And we'll meet back here when we are as tall as we want this bag to be. Remember, we're doing our chain spaces now. And then when we get to the end of the round of chain spaces, where we get to our stitch marker, we'll start working our front post extended double crochets around these posts again. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and just continue to grow your bag up as high as you want to, alternating between those two rows of patterns, and you will have scales all the way up. I will see you when you reach your desired height. Okay, now as you see, I have reached my desired height. And it doesn't matter what row you end on, if you end on a scale row or you end on a space, one where you're working into your chain spaces or one where you're working front post. It doesn't matter. However high you get to, we have that scaly cool look to that. So I've measured it out, and I am, excuse me, at the end of my round here for the cell phone. All right, so I have just that one chain space left there go ahead and I've already chained one, and I'll go ahead and work my last extended into that. Okay, now as we did in our last bag, the way we finish this off is just real simple. You are going to chain one, and then you are literally just into that space, you're going to work a slip stitch. Now it depends on how you're going to finish off. You can finish off like you did right here, where we worked half double crochets into the space and the next stitch, in the space and the next stitch, and we did not chain through any of these. If you watched that last video, we did not do any chains in between stitches for our half double crochets. And we did, as you see, that rubber band in there, so that is a nice way to kind of cinch the top a little bit so that you hold that cell phone in better. Now, there are those little hooks that you can use, that they use for water bottles and stuff like that, that are great for these because they're detachable. I look at this more like a cell phone case than a cell phone carrier, but as with anything, it is what you make it. So if you make a handle for it, it will be a carrier, a nice carrier. If you choose not to make a handle for it, then you don't have to do that either. It could be just more of a protective covering. And this is just thick enough that it would be pretty good on the protection end. But you want to be able to just slide your cell phone case into it, have it fit nicely, snugly. And like I said, these stretch, so you've got that as well. So I'm just going to finish my round off here. I'm going to pull my stitch marker out. And I have completed my scaly. I'm going to stitch one. And I've completed my scaly cell phone holder. It is so cool. I love it. I love this little texture of it, and makes it fun. And for those of you who are all creative in your beading, which is something that I would like to try next, you know, you can just kind of wind beads in through different parts of this as you go along to really add a little kick to your project, some more pizzazz. It's a fun little project here. So in either of your, I'm going to end mine with, I'm going to work the half double crochets around the top. However, I am not going to add a rubber band into this one. I'm just going to have it sit as a case. And like I said, there's those little hooks that people put on water bottles. If you want to attach it to the inside of your purse so that it's easy access to get to, and you want to just attach it to the handle of your purse, that way you could take that hook off whenever you want to, and you've got your holder, your nice little holder for your cell phone. So however you end up using this is going to be up to you. Get creative from here and crazy and do any kind of deck out that you want to do, whether it is adding flowers or bows. You could probably add little tassels on the edges. That would be fun too, all different kinds of things. But I want to thank you for joining me today. And this is segment 2 of our Crochet Quickies, our cell phone case holder. We're going to have several more of these Crochet Quickie segments, which are just going to be really quick, easy workups that you can whip up in a very short period of time. You can whip up several of them and just have fun with them. Great sell item, I would say. So in a craft fair or other. But I hope you'll join us over on our group page at facebook.com/groups/Yarn Wars, where there are people all around the world. We have crocheters, knitters, loomers. We have such an amazing group over there. So supportive, full of encouragement. We have a fun time over there with contests, mini challenges, a lot of things coming up at our Yarn Wars group. We also are on the web at www.yarnwars.com, where you can find lots of great free patterns from Yarn Wars, from us, me, and also some great video projects, Power Hour, that we have right here on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe today so that you can be updated when any of our new patterns come out, any of our new tutorials, short tutorials on different projects that take under an hour to make. Just some really fun stuff that we do here. So I do hope you'll join us. We have some great creative things and coming up and available today. So thanks so much again. This is Colleen with yarnwars.com, and I hope you all have such a yarn good day. Bye.